I attended Juilliard. I'm a graduate of the Harvard Business School. I travel quite extensively. I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now, what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
His line delivery, it's such hot choices that he is making. I was watching interviews with him. He said that he was looking around to see if he was pushing the envelope too much, and they just kept on letting him go wild. And so that's just so wonderful. And then to know that he ad-libbed and improvised a majority of his lines, he is a genius. I'm lucky if I can remember my lines, let alone improvise something so funny.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coddington, my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
We're going out and a drink of rum.
I was going to say, what do we got here tonight, kids?
It's showtime.
It's showtime. And we are, obviously, we're not talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger this week. I think we talked about him for a good amount this year.
After he had a kid, it's time to just let him go for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, no one really likes the junior episode so far. So I'm getting the picture from our listeners and viewers that they are tired of Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's okay. We are too, and we are ready to officially start. I guess we can call this, John, the unofficial start of spooky season, right?
Ooh, yes.
I mean, we can.
This
I mean,
is when I
spooky
start
season.
spooky season. Yeah,
I know this is when you start spooky season, but when we already are starting spooky season at my house. But we are going to be talking about the movie that everyone seems to be talking about, Beetlejuice, the first one. Sorry, we got you going there for a minute. We're talking about the OG Beetlejuice here, and there's only one way to talk about the OG Beetlejuice, and we can't do this by ourselves. So we got a very, very special guest, and I actually wrote down how I was going to introduce our special guest. Okay, I didn't tell her this, but I'm gonna introduce her properly because she is a special guest. She is the woman of 1,000 faces, performance artist and horror actress. She is the face behind the film Bloody Bridget, and she's our friend Anastasia Elfman. Welcome to the podcast again.
Hello.
You didn't know I was going to do that.
I didn't. I'm so thrilled. And you guys can see me, right? Because
yes.
Okay, perfect. Because there's a freeze frame of me in the corner, and I was worried.
Nope,
for a
you're
second.
good.
Okay.
Nope, you're good. You're good. This is the magic of remote recording. Is sometimes it'll freeze for you, but actually be working fine. But no, we're glad to have you back. I mean, your last name is you're more related to this movie than either of us. John and I have the distinction of our degree of separation from Beetlejuice is, well, Beetlejuice was born in our hometown. So, but you actually have barbecues and things like that with people who actually worked on the movie, which is wild.
Yeah, I do. And Christmas parties.
I can't fathom.
It's a weird life.
It's a weird life. Well, I got to ask you just first off, how's things been going? Last time we talked with you, we talked about Death Becomes Her. You had a great time. And this time we're in video because before then we were just doing audio only. So how have things been going in your neck of the woods?
Oh man, super good and super crazy busy. Still on the Film Fest tour and doing projects and live performances, and I'm about to work with the Chaney family to do something fun and special, and doing some stuff with Fleischer and just all kinds of all the stuff that I'm obsessed with. That's kind of what I'm focused on doing.
Fantastic. For fans who don't know, Anastasia is a massive fan of Lon Chaney Sr. I appreciate that because I have an appreciation for Lon Chaney Sr. myself, being that he is the man of 1,000 faces. But speaking of 1,000 faces, or just spinning faces, Beetlejuice. I guess I'll start off the first question for both of you guys. When did you first watch Beetlejuice?
Well,
I guess John or Anastasia, whoever wants to
I
take
feel
it
like
first.
I'm less interesting, so let me go first.
Okay, John, you go first.
Yeah, considering
Not true, but
the connections. Yeah. Well, Brian and I both had basically the same experience growing up, living on different coasts, of falling in love when we were 4 years old of Batman '89. And that kind of put me on the Tim Burton train, but I think I was still maybe around 7 or 8 by the time I started to actually look at, to not only know that there's such a thing as a film director, but that Tim Burton was one of them, and wanting to see more of his work, because I had loved Batman. I had loved Nightmare Before Christmas, which, yes, no, don't jump in the comment section. I know he didn't direct that. He wrote and was a partial producer for it. Henry Selick directed it, but obviously it's a Tim Burton imagination. And Batman Returns. So I'm like, who is this guy? And I think I owned a VHS. I think it was actually a Disney thing, which was interesting because he was all Warner Brothers back then, and they were doing a trailer for something like From the Mind of Tim Burton, and he walked in like during the trailer, and he had like the crazy hair, and he kind of looked like juice diet Einstein with dark hair, and I was like, whoa, this guy, he almost looks like Edward Scissorhands. Like, I got to learn more about him. So I think it was like 8 or 9, 7, 8, 9, and I watched Beetlejuice, and to me at that time I said, Tim Burton is a living god, and I will pray with a little towel on the ground to the east every night in honor of him. I adored Tim Burton so much as a kid, and watching Beetlejuice after seeing Edward Scissorhands and Batman Returns, I went, this guy is he is my everything at that time.
Awesome. Anastasia, what about you? When did you first see Beetlejuice?
well, that's a hard one to follow. So thank you. Trying to think. I imagine that we rented it from like a VHS store because I'm not going to date myself, but I don't think it was in the theater when I watched it. Take that how you will. But yeah, I mean, just everything Tim Burton. I mean, okay, so like, here's the thing. I grew up with like severe dyslexia, which I've told you about. And I've always felt like that, like weird, freaky monster, just like outsider. And also I grew up not allowed to play video games. And so I grew up on like old classic films and stuff. So like I don't know. I feel like with Tim Burton, it's like he focuses on like kind of the outsider story. You know, he's like a fellow monster kid, so he gets it. And I just love, he's so visual, especially with these like old, like classic films. You know, you're talking about obviously Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, Nightmare. I know the rules, but it's still like classic, very visual Tim Burton stuff going on. But yeah, I don't know if that answered it, but
No, yeah.
that's all I got.
Yeah. I guess I'm the weirdo. I saw this. I think I probably saw this when I was around 5 or 6. No joke. Around 5 or 6. Because I've told John this before, and I will date myself. I'm an elder millennial who just turned 39. Okay? And we grew up with HBO as the babysitter. And Beetlejuice was one of those movies that played on HBO all the time. So I remember watching this movie on HBO nonstop, watch it with my family, watch it by myself. And, at the time I didn't make the connection between Batman and Beetlejuice, right? I just viewed them at the time when I first saw them as like two distinct entities that I loved. And it wasn't until a little bit later, probably when I was around, when John saw it first, when he was like 8 or 9, that I made the connection like, oh God, these are all the same person, this is all from the same mind. And then when you really get in deep with it, where you realize the behind the scenes of Beetlejuice and how quite literally you could say, and I'm going to make this argument right here at the top of the show, that You would not have the modern superhero film if it were not for Beetlejuice. Okay? You would not have the modern superhero film. Because if we go all the way back and we say that Batman 1989 is the birth of the modern superhero film, which I truly believe that, that movie did not get greenlit until Beetlejuice became a box office smash, because it solidified Tim Burton as a bankable director who could quite literally command the budget that Batman required and everything that goes with it. So thank you, Beetlejuice, and its wacky, bizarro, crazy movie, because that birthed the modern superhero.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Brian, because like there was a freedom back then that, because we see the Tim Burton model all the time now, where Marvel gets somebody who made a movie for 800 grand and they're the wonder and darling of independent film, but Tinseltown sniffs them out and go, you're going to do Thor 8, but you're not going to have any creative control. We're going to tell you everything to do top to bottom. And these movies almost kind of ruin them, where back in 89, it was like, hey, this kid seems new, hip, subversive. Like maybe if we just wrangled him a little bit, but gave him the freedom to be Tim Burton, we might just be able to make something with this Batman movie. So yeah, I agree with you, but thank goodness there was actually a freedom that he had back then, where it's like, can you give us Beetlejuice, but make sure we can sell breakfast cereal, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I was doing research for this, and I literally found it hilarious that he was working on the script for Batman with Sam Hain at the time that after he had made Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and he had submitted it to get made, and Warner Brothers said, we don't trust you enough. Like, he had a gigantic success with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but it was not until Beetlejuice, a movie that quite literally everyone was like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing with this movie. Like, literally the script where they're like, I don't get it. Like people were saying at the time, I don't get this bizarro ghost house movie. And it just worked. It just magically worked and hit a nerve with people. I think honestly, like Anastasia, to kind of your point about, Tim Burton kind of speaking to kind of being like the weirdos, like speaking to the weirdos like us, that's what this movie does really well. It speaks to those sensibilities, right?
Yeah, I mean it's so crazy to think about that. Like, we didn't have those superhero movies. Like what you were saying, it hasn't really been that long, but that's been like entire life, like generation,
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. And then when I think about, okay, so like I'm biased with Danny, but it's like when you're not thinking about like comic book Batman, it's like it's his theme that you're thinking about. And so that's just like insane to me. Like, how do you and he just like the Batman thing, he just like created that when he was on an airplane and it was too loud for him and he was like I don't know, you guys might know the story.
Please.
Or not. Okay.
Please continue.
So he was on like I'm paraphrasing, okay, but he does this so much better in his own interviews, so I'm just like stealing from him, sorry. But so he was in an airplane and he had just like done a meeting or something like that, or been on set, and the airplane was really loud and he was too embarrassed to like, because usually he hums like themes into his like little recorder, and so he's too embarrassed to do it next to like this business guy that was sitting next to him, so he kept on going into the airplane bathroom, which was loud as well, but he like would like record the Batman themes and cues and stuff, and so he was going back and forth, and so like the flight crew were like worried that he was like doing drugs or something. Like, how is he able to like do like, it was crazy. But like, anyways, I think that's so amazing. And he's so talented. I mean, like The Simpsons, he created in his car. Like,
yeah, I was going to say,
talent is amazing.
Your brother-in-law has written basically the soundtrack of John and mine's life. So I mean, mine
too. So
yeah, I mean yours. I mean,
but I'm
go
biased.
down the line.
So
you're biased. Again, you get to spend Thanksgiving with him.
That's right. But I
those
mean,
fun
okay,
holidays.
to be fair, it's like, it's not me going like, oh, hey, Danny, can you tell me about Edward Scissorhands? Oh, and pass me the potato. Like, I don't.
No, because
It's
like
so,
it's,
like,
it's
I
just
don't-
family.
casserole. But
Pass the cranberry sauce.
but not this is I think now the fifth time we may have said this in this episode, but not to age myself, but around the time of Napster, I think the first thing that I illegally downloaded was
Why are you outing yourself, John? Why are you outing yourself, John?
was the Batman
They're gonna
89
find you.
theme to me, and
Oh,
like
wow.
just listening to it and just
Are you seriously outing yourself to someone who literally can be like, I am going to sue that man right now?
Hey,
On
there's no
behalf of my
Napster anymore.
family.
Yeah. It's all good now. Yeah.
You forget, I'm very vengeful.
Yeah.
Hey, I bought
Well-
so much Batman merchandise, so much Beetlejuice merchandise. I paid it forward 100.
It all
times
balances
over.
out.
Yeah.
It all balances out.
Oh, you know
I
what
also own
did?
some Oingo Boingo, so
Oh, well, there you go.
yeah.
I got a new popcorn bucket.
Oh,
Ag-
I'm jealous.
Against my husband was like, we don't need that. I was like, but we do. I had actually like 2 of them.
Well, it is the summer of popcorn buckets.
It is.
truly
Isn't that
is.
wonderful?
Yeah, I love, this is a tangent. I love how the popcorn bucket was quite literally like shocking people with the Dune one where people were filleting themselves with the sandworm popcorn bucket. And now it's just become a big giant joke where there's a popcorn bucket for every movie now that you can fillet yourself with.
Hey. PG-13 film we're talking about, fellas.
Oh, sure. Well, we're an explicit podcast, so there's that.
Well, actually, no, it was a PG film. It was
Oh, that's right.
Oh, pardon me. Oh,
And-
oopsies.
it was one of the last PG films to get away with an F-bomb.
And
nice
having
fucking model.
Yeah, well, and also having a scene where Beetlejuice goes to a whorehouse.
Hey, you
Yeah.
know what? That's gonna go over them kids' heads, but we can't have them naughty words.
It went over my head as a kid. I didn't quite get it. I was just like, what? Well, I don't get the deal. Like,
To be fair, that was Juno's idea.
that was the whorehouse is my idea.
You know, your
Oh.
caseworker. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's dig into this. Okay. So for those of you who have never seen Beetlejuice,
Leave.
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 Yeah. Wow. Anastasia, just leave. So Beetlejuice, just in a nutshell, it's the story of the Maitlands. They're the picture perfect couple who live in Winter River. What is it? Vermont? Connecticut?
Vermont, I
One of
think.
those places? Is it Vermont?
Yes.
It's Vermont. Northeast. That area. Not New York. And they're on, I guess, a staycation is what we would call it nowadays. Back then they just called it a vacation. But they unfortunately die in the first couple minutes and discover that they're dead. And unfortunately, when you're dead, you obviously have people who move into your house, and boy, oh boy, they have the worst family to move into their house, the Dietzes. And I'll start right there. I love the Dietzes in this movie. I used to not really care for them when I was a kid, but man, oh man, they're just hilarious. So, you've got Delia Dietz, played by Catherine O'Hara. Again, I didn't appreciate her when I was a kid, but as an adult, she steals the show outside of Beetlejuice. Like, she has some of the best lines. What do you guys think?
Well,
Are you
yes,
kidding? She is mother.
Yeah. She does in just
She's-
about anything she's involved in. There's something very special about Catherine O'Hara. I mean, when you think of Home Alone, it's like, oh, it's the Wet Bandits or the Sticky Bandits or Kevin. It's like, no, I really think of Mom and that, So yeah, she's a once in a generation talent. So of course she's gonna steal the show here.
Yeah. Anastasia, what about you? What are your thoughts on Catherine O'Hara?
Oh man, she can do no wrong, and you're so right. She steals scenes left and right from everyone, and it's just like I was watching it again. Okay, so I'm obsessive, and I always watch these. They're always in our rolling in our house, anyways. But this time, I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna focus, and I'm gonna watch all the nuances, and we're gonna be learning tonight. Okay, so I made the family watch with me, and sorry, I'm a fun mom. It's fine.
Family's
But-
like, again? again with the Beetlejuice? Yes, again, because I'm gonna be on a podcast. Okay.
That's
And
right.
then we're gonna watch the opening of Tales from the Crypt, you little bitch.
That was towards Ricky. Yes.
Oh,
It's okay. Keep him grounded. It's fine. But okay, so like I was watching her and it's like these moments where she just like, she's like giving the eyes. So Charles like, come on, help me out, like at the dinner table, she's like, go ahead, and I feel like I do that naturally, like with Rick. So it's like, it's just so beautiful. And I don't know, every scene with her, there's something new. I feel like I see every single time. And she's okay. So I know her a little bit. She's so sweet in person and I love her so much. So anyways, that's it.
I just love her scene. I think the best scene with her is when she screams at Charles and says, if you don't let me gut out this house and make it my own, I will go insane and I will take you with me. I was like, it's so good. Because like obviously she comes off as like the bad guy in the beginning of this when we're first introduced to her, and clearly she's not. She's just a fish out of water in the purest sense of the word. Like she does not want to be in Winter River. She wants to be in New York. She's a cosmopolitan type person. She wants to do her art. That's where her brain is. And so it's funny when she's forced to be in this situation. And that's the thing that I've noticed that Tim Burton does in his movies is he loves to put people outside of their element, be it Edward Scissorhands, where Edward is in a suburban utopia, or in Beetlejuice, where you've got the Dietzes, who are clearly metropolitan people now in the country and dealing with all of that. It's an interesting way that he does that.
Well, Brian, I think there's been an interesting connection online that people have made between David Lynch and Tim Burton. And I think the big separation between the two of them is that David Lynch is an outsider that despises suburbia and does not want to be accepted by it. But if you look at the work of Tim Burton, he is an outsider to, shall we say, conventional life that wants to be accepted by it. I don't know if he would ever say this or if he has, but I think Edward Scissorhands might be the closest thing to a biographical movie that he has made. So yeah, it's that constant approach of the outsider in a new environment. This one flipped on its head where, the city folk have to come and live amongst them rural folk that don't have Cantonese, So
Don't have Cantonese.
The MSN.
Oh,
or
Yeah, I mean-
Cantonese or
I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
It's Cantonese.
Yeah.
I like both of those words. No, but Tim Burton's are like little weird Burbank boy, like he totally screams Burbank. I don't know if you guys have been out here, but it's very apparent just like where he grew up. I don't know how to explain it.
His vibe is just it's the suburbs, even though he's kind
it's
of
very
the weird guy. But it's like he fits in the suburbs.
He was
Burbank
the
is
Vincent
full of
Price
these
of
guys.
Burbank is full of these guys.
Yeah.
Clearly, John and I have never been to Burbank yet. We should go, apparently.
It's great. I love it. It's like one of those small anywhere USA inside of like LA, and it's like you don't get that except in Burbank, It's like where you feel like your neighbors. Like here in I live under the Hollywood side, and Hollywood, I never see. It's like in Death Becomes Her. In 10 years, have you once seen a neighbor? Like I don't know who my neighbors are, and if I do hear them, I'm like, shut up.
Anastasia, did you see Maxine?
Yes.
Is that fairly similar to the whole experience of being deep in Hollywood? Other than obviously the more salacious things the movie presents.
Yeah, I haven't tried to strip down any of the Buster Keaton impersonators.
I was going to say, you don't do that on your walk home. You're not just like.
I wasn't going to mention it, but it's kind of a thing I do.
It was Charlie Chaplin, and you stepped on his penis, not his balls. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oopsies. Yeah. See. It's that or Spider-Man. I forget. There's too many of them.
But anywho, speaking of the characters,
segue.
and Brian, you'd mentioned having a different look on sorry, the mother blanking.
Delia Dietz.
Delia, thank you.
Yes.
We're live, pal. But Charles, when I was a kid, I'm like, why is he such like a stick in the middle? What's his problem? And when I was a younger kid, I didn't have like depression, anxiety. That didn't come until like puberty for me. And now looking back at this, I'm like, this man is severely mentally ill, and everyone around him is trying.
Oh,
to
absolutely.
kill him.
This poor guy.
He's clearly had a nervous breakdown.
He's clearly broken from being in New York City, and like all this guy wants to do is just sit in his goddamn study and watch fucking birds.
Yeah, look at
and
birds.
Not even whittle. He doesn't want to whittle. He just wants to watch fucking birds. That's it. And no one wants him to watch birds ever.
Can't
Poor
do
guy.
it. Not with the family.
No. He's got a daughter who hates being there, who's talking to ghosts, and his wife is just like complaining that they're not in New York, and all Charles wants to do is just relax. That's it.
And he also has to deal with Otho.
Yeah, I gotta ask you guys, did any of you guys find it weird that Otho decided to move in with them? Like, I didn't understand that. I'm like, why is their weirdo designer friend deciding to uplift themselves and move to Winter River?
I got you, Brian. I got you. Otho's.
All right, I want your theory, John. Then I think Anastasia's got a theory too.
I think Otho's an
I
old-fashioned
always have a
grifter.
theory.
I
think he's a grifter.
Yeah, and he realizes that Delia is his biggest get, and he's probably paid by the hour. So I'll go out into the wilderness and help her redecorate this house and make a fortune. So,
okay, Anastasia, what about you? What's your theory?
Okay, here's the thing. I never thought that he actually moved in. I thought that he was just there to help. Like Delia, you know how you invite a friend over to help you unbox stuff, or or I mean I don't, but I hear that people have friends and they help them design their houses and things like that. So I just figured, I don't know, that it was like a weekend trip for him, and he was just getting everything ready. But that's very interesting that you guys say that he moved in, because I didn't get that vibe.
Well,
now I've got to watch it again. Sorry,
well, that's
family.
Saying, if you watch it again, they say, it's been 3 months when the Maitlands decide to go into the Netherworld, and then they show back up, and it's 3 months or so that's all been designed. But Otho's still there. The man's still there.
But it's a dinner party, right? People come and go. But I host a lot of dinner parties, so.
I guess so, but the man's walking around in a robe half the time. So,
that's just him.
Who's to say?
Yeah. That's just him.
As a point of reference, Hartford, Connecticut is a 1 hour ferry ride to New York City, and I know obviously we're in Vermont, not Connecticut. So maybe Otho is coming and going from time to time as Delia needs him. I'm not sure.
I like to think that he's crashing in Charles's library.
Oh, Otho's not staying
loves
anywhere with that level of thread count. No.
Oh God. Well, moving on. I of course I got to mention Lydia, who's I guess you would call her the heart and soul of the movie. And I mean, I don't know about you. We are going to talk about Beetlejuice too, but I think she plays a very important role in that movie too. But what would you say? Would you say Lydia is the heart and soul of the film?
Anastasia, do you want to go first?
For me, I don't know. I mean, I'm interested to hear your guys' take. I guess we're. It feels like the story starts obviously with through the viewpoint of the Maitlands, and then it switches obviously, and I guess we're going through this experience from lit a bit. I don't know, it jumps around a lot, so I wouldn't say it's particularly her. I don't know. I'm on the fence a little bit.
John, what about you?
I would focus more on the Maitlands, because I do think that this film suffers from a lot of poor little rich girl.
Okay.
She's clearly coming from a lot of money from the city, and it's oh, I hate the fact that I've never had a cold meal. I hate that I'm always able to shower first because my bedroom has a bathroom in it. I'm so
John
moody.
doesn't have children, so he doesn't get it. I do get it. And I know, Anastasia, you have kid too, right?
I have
and
kid.
You have kid. So you get it.
You make child.
You have child. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The reason why I say that is because, the main crux of this movie, the main kind of arc for the Maitlands, and you guys get the point, like it's the Maitlands, like who are the kind of the focus point. But the whole point is that they don't have a family. Like their frenemy, and I call her frenemy, Jane, who I really hate more than anything in this movie, is Jane, even has the gall to say to Barbara at the beginning of the movie, "Oh, you need a house that's smaller. This house is too big. You need a family." And you clearly don't have a family because you're lacking as a human. And I look at Lydia as being like that connecting point for the Maitlands actually getting a child, even if it is after death.
Well, it's like the
That's
Aliens model. It's like, oh, you're not going to be able to have a kid yourself, but you'll become a surrogate parent. So instead of Newt, it's Lydia.
Yeah.
And at the end of this movie, the Dietzes are just okay with the Maitlands raising their daughter. Yeah, you go ahead.
Listen, Delia has to make sculptures of Beetlejuice, and Charles finally gets to relax and watch his fucking birds.
It's like,
okay.
with
It's okay if the ghosts do it.
With that one line, like, we studied all week for that math test. And it's like, wait a minute. The ghosts are found in the textbooks? Like,
Where are your parents? Yeah. No, you were so nice to what's her face, Jane. Oh, can I curse? I'm gonna. Curse.
Yes, you can.
Oh,
it's an explicit podcast.
I hate her. She is such a bitch. I hate her
She's
so
fucking horrible.
Much. I would have tripped her down the stairs. Like she wouldn't be she would have gone to the afterlife. If
I would have
talked to me
haunted
like that.
Jane specifically.
Yeah,
I would have haunted her and her family because Jane is horrible. She's not
so
a friend.
Terrible. No,
Well,
no, she's not. She's like evil.
I'm more
The true
forgiving.
villain of
And,
Beetlejuice is Jane.
Exactly. People think it's Beetlejuice, but it's actually her. Twist villain.
I'm more forgiving of children these days. Like, but when I was a kid myself, when that little snot-nosed punk kid of hers in the back seat went, "They drowned." I'm like, yeah, fuck you, you little brat. Have some empathy in your goddamn life.
That little brat is raised by the true villain of the movie. Okay? So no wonder that little shit is talking that way. But yeah, I hate Jane more than anything in this movie. And good on Tim Burton for making me have a visceral reaction to such a small character. Like, and the thing is, this is like, I think every one of us has met people like Jane who kind of are like duplicitous in their friendship and are always out for something. Like clearly all Jane wants is the commission to be sold on that house. That's all she wants is the money. Right?
No, yeah. Like they're literally on like quote unquote vacation and she's harassing them.
She's harassing them.
She's going behind their back, like showing pictures of their home to try to sell it. And it's like, what are you talking about? We're not even moving. Like we're
and let's be honest here. Let's be honest here. Jane is harassing the Maitlands during vacation. I don't know what anyone else does on vacation when it's just you and your spouse, but it is kind of inappropriate to just be knocking on windows and spying in the house and that sort of shit. Because I guarantee you, Jane has probably walked in on Adam and Barbara going to Pound Town. Just saying.
The old Maitland Bone Zone. Yeah.
Right on the models. Right on the model of the town. But yeah, Jane's terrible.
I mean, at that point, she's asking for it because,
Yeah.
like you're gonna like come in and you're gonna like peek through
She's like,
their
hey,
their basement window.
I got this guy in New York who wants to buy your house. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh God!
What are you doing with that model of the town square, Adam?
Yeah, Adam's jerking off to the Williams Sonoma catalog again.
Gross.
It's kitchen appliances, shit. Adam. What is wrong with you?
Oh God. Well, I guess I want to ask you guys, what do you think of the Maitlands as characters in this movie? Because obviously we have these wacky characters like the Dietzes, we have Beetlejuice, obviously, but where do these two characters kind of fit in with this?
I love that they're the like the dichotomy of the Maitlands. Like clearly Tim Burton has like an approach of like people that he wants you to accept, like, you know, or like the people that have people for barbecues and will help you move your couch, and you know, as you know, simple folk, rustic folk. You know, not to be in remotely condescending, because I'm being more facetious there, as compared to, you know, I am my own sculpture. You know, like basically the Maitlands, or sorry, the Dietzes are Shia LaBeouf incarnate. You know, and Anastasia, I don't know if that's a friend of yours, because I know you're in the business, and if we need to edit that out, we will.
Yeah. We're not saying that Shia LaBeouf is weird, but we are kind of saying that it's weird. We're just.
But you're not saying.
I'm not saying he's. Yeah. I'm just saying I've seen video of him in a Walmart, and it's kind of strange. Just saying. Well, Anastasia, what about you? What do you think about the Maitlands in this kind of world of these bizarro characters?
I mean, they're like kind of like the straight man, right? Like they're the normalcy, and it just like you think it's like they're sheltered and they think the world is just how it seems. It's like cookie cutter, you know, white picket fence. And, you know, it's like once we go into town, we kind of notice that like, oh, they kind of own the whole town, you know? So that's kind of like a random fact if you're watching, because they never really talk about it. And then, you know, then quite literally their world gets like flipped upside down thanks to a naughty little dog. Spoiler alert. I think you had enough time to watch, though.
Movie's been around since '88. You're good.
Yeah, we're fine, right? Too soon. Just kidding. But so then, you know, it's like they have to figure out this new universe and figure it out, and figure out like how to deal with these new weird people. Because it's like, it's almost like, you know, it's kind of talking about like how your universe is one way, and then like you end up broadening. I don't know. Maybe it's getting too like heady.
No. I think there's a lot to that. I mean, they are in essence introduced to not only an afterlife in which they have to deal with people who are living in their house that they personally don't like, okay, and have to be stuck there for 100 years. On top of that, they're also introduced to the reality of what the afterlife is, which is that you've got an underworld, the Netherworld, which is never actually said. It's never called the Netherworld.
That's the cartoon.
Well, I know.
Don't bring that into this. No, just kidding. I love the cartoon.
I love the cartoon.
Love it. Love
it. But you know, you have this underworld in which you see the reality of where you go and how it's really, really bizarre. And like you've got waiting rooms and the ticket turnstiles, and you know how suicide victims apparently become civil servants in the afterlife.
No, it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the DMV before.
Yes.
But it's not a super fun, chill place to be around.
No one has fun at the DMV.
Everybody hates being there, and everybody who works there hates you for being there, you know?
Yes.
Like nobody wants to help you. They don't ever want to do their job. Like, why are you even here? What do you mean you need a driver's license? Go to Walmart.
Well, Brian, kind of to go back just a little bit, I think that this is clearly, I think, the last time that Tim Burton didn't have any level of control over the final script, because really his worlds to me are a 180 from this universe. This movie has normal people surrounded by quote unquote weirdos, where almost every other Tim Burton movie is a quote unquote weirdo trying to be accepted by normal people. Even somebody like Batman trying to live in, an established world. Edward Scissorhands, an obvious example. Ichabod Crane in Sleepy Hollow, going to more of an established order when he's this weirdo outsider that wants to do autopsies. So I do think it's interesting that he kind of flips the premise on its head for almost every other thing that he does. Ed Wood, another example. But I do want to mention this, and I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but I've always wanted to do this, whether it was a podcast, a YouTube channel, essay, what have you, of what movies are really about. And I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but I think this movie is an idea, at least in its universe, that there is no God, that life is meaningless, and death is worse than life.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anastasia, what are your thoughts? Because I got thoughts on this, but I want our guests to go first.
Oh man, thank you. Such gentlemen. No, I mean, now that you say it, that totally makes sense. Yeah, no, go ahead, Brian.
Well, I mean, my response to that is really, I think that's a very deep way of looking at it. Clearly, there's no Jesus, there's no God, there's no nothing in Beetlejuice at all. It's just the after, and it's not pretty. I think to us weirdos, we might find it pretty, but to the average person, it's not pretty. And yet it's that life is life, and you should treasure the life you've got, because if you think there's something else after that is better, it is not. And the only solace that I'll give to them is that they're, Barbara and Adam are at least together, right? And that's, I think, what keeps them together amidst all of this craziness, is that they are together. They're a unit, and learning to accept what the afterlife is for them, and accept that their previous life is over and now they have something new. That's where I think the change happens. And towards the end of the movie, obviously I haven't talked about Beetlejuice at all yet. But the point where the movie becomes, really kind of complete is Adam and Barbara living in the house together with the Dietzes, realizing that this is our life now, that going to and kind of living the lost, going to the neither world and seeing like the lost souls and what can happen to you, that's worse, than just losing control of your house.
Well, Brian, also, if you think about Lydia's journey where, she's talking to Beetlejuice after he is clearly been like 3 cum drained, like just sunbathing,
Damn, John.
But no, he's very relaxed, shall we say. And and he's like, I got to get out of here. And she's like, I want to get in there. And he basically goes, why? Like this is hell on earth, or hell on after earth, however you want to describe it. Yeah. Why would you want in here? And I think that when she kind of gets a sense of what it's done to the Maitlands, what Beetlejuice is, even abstractly understanding the neither world, not said, but we'll use that word.
We're going to call it neither world, John, okay? Yeah. I don't care if it's just in the cartoon.
Is that she starts to appreciate...
I like it. Go with it.
A warm breeze, a sunrise, a bicycle ride. It's just like, well, I better enjoy this while I got it, because apparently the afterlife is an industrial line and a DMV, So.
Yeah. Well, I want to make sure that we mention Beetlejuice, because Beetlejuice is kind of the main character in this movie.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice?
I mean, Beetlegeist?
Don't say his name 3
Beetle
times.
breakfast?
Beetlegeist.
Beetle drink?
Beetle breakfast? Beetle drink.
Drink.
But Beetle drink.
I like
but
that she gets
Beetlejuice.
Beetle first, by the way. I'm sorry, but she gets
Yes.
Beetle right away. She sees an insect and goes Beetle, and then he throws in a thing of juice, and she can't think of that word.
She's like,
Beetle,
Yeah.
vitamin C.
I would have been like, cockroach? Is that
Beetle
your name?
carton? Yeah.
Beetle. I just love that she looks over.
Beetle,
Hey, how are ya?
imaginary image.
I would have gone with pincher bug, but I mean, obviously,
Pincher
whatever.
Pincher
Pincher bug.
How was
Talking
that
bug.
a pincher bug? It was like
Talking bug.
it was literally like a cockroach.
Locust. That's what it was. Oh, but Beetlejuice, what can you say? First of all, this guy is only on screen for 17 minutes of the whole fucking movie.
Less than 20% of the entire film. Michael Keaton's only
And makes every moment count. You know?
he's there for 2 weeks, improvs 90% of his lines. And Tim Burton, okay. If your direction works, it works. And I'm not gonna say that like $1 billion Tim ain't successful. But he has said this to Michael Keaton. He's from every era and no era. And I'm like, that's not fucking confusing in any way, shape, or form. What does that mean?
To an actor that's like, oh my god, you're so right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
It's
for
like,
that
so-
very clear direction.
You're everything but nothing. You're an everyman,
everything.
but you're above man. You're a sexual dynamo, but sexually impotent. Go.
That perfectly describes him.
Yeah.
What? Let me ask Anastasia Elfman this question. Why do you think Beetlejuice works so well within this movie? What is it about Beetlejuice that just we're so attracted to him? We're so locked in every second that guy is on screen.
Okay, I'm going to take it back just a half a second because I did
Okay.
not get to answer that little question before or whatever. But
Okay.
can we talk about how Michael Keaton was robbed of an Oscar for this incredible performance and what a legendary performance
Yes.
he had to only like literally iconic performance. So only be you guys said like under 20 minutes, like 17 minutes.
It was 17 minutes.
For
17
it to
minutes.
like for this performance to like haunt us the way it does. I mean, for me, it's so inspiring. Like, please, somebody write me a role like this. Like, how fun would that be to just go like fucking nuts on a scene? But gosh, what was the question? Like, why is he
Well,
hot?
why do you-
I don't know. He's a babe.
No. Well,
Sorry.
no, I mean,
don't
if
show
that's-
this to
if that's-
Rick, okay?
if that's your kink, I'm not going to judge you.
Hey,
but I guess
I like weird guys. I like weird guys. I'm sorry. It's a problem.
my question is just like for a character that's only on screen for 17 minutes, what is it about this character that just kind of attracts us to him? And what is it that just makes us like love every minute he's on?
You froze
is it
for
the
me,
makeup?
but I'm
Is it the
gonna
performance? Is
I'm
it
gonna
what
take
is it?
Okay, sorry. I probably interrupted
Okay,
you
go
because
ahead.
you froze. What is
That's
so
okay.
attractive of the character? I don't know. His line delivery is so like I'm not talking about Babe Alert hot, but it's such hot choices that he is making. And I was watching like interviews with him, and it's like he was like he said that he was looking around to see if he was like pushing the envelope too much, and they just kept on letting him go, like go wild. And so that's just so wonderful. And then to know that he like ad-libbed and like improvised a majority of his lines is like he is a genius. I'm lucky if I can remember my lines, let alone improvise something so funny, like just him talking about attending Juilliard and, seeing The Exorcist.
I went to the Harvard
Like,
Business School. Yeah.
Exactly.
I travel extensively.
He's an everyday man and no day at all, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, it just like the strong choices he made. He's hilarious. God, and I mean it's everything. It's It's the mood of the scenes. It's his costume. It's his makeup. It's his delivery. It's the direction that he got or lack thereof sometimes. I mean, it's all important to creating. And then also just like letting what we were talking about with him improvising, like letting an actor just riff and figure it out, and then not being hounded by studios. I mean, I don't want to like make any guys in suits mad, but it's like letting these creators do what they're great at and like letting them create and not trying to like hurry them up. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm like old school, like just let the creators go away and do their magic.
Well, there's something to be said. There's two schools of thought. The worst thing you can have as a filmmaker is not enough time and not enough money. But the other end of it, the worst thing you can have is too much money and too much time. But if I think about comparing this to other iconic characters, Beetlejuice, I mean, that have very little screen time. One is, a CGI / robot is the T-Rex, say in Jurassic Park, but also there's Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, both on camera, very little, the iconic things that you remember about the film. But using those two examples, and the one that we're talking about now, is that filmmaking takes a village. It's the set design, it's the cinematography, it's the costume design, it's the makeup work on Beetlejuice. Not to sound like I'm kissing ass, but it's a great fucking score. That
I was
goes
gonna say, how about that score?
Yeah. Tim's direction, the other actors playing off of him, any type of visual effect, whether organic or trickery. And when you hire somebody as brilliant as Michael Keaton, I'm sorry, I'm a Yinzer. I think he's brilliant. He's
Batman.
I'd wash the man's feet, like I was the Pope if I met him. But is that
okay?
Here's a trivia fact for all Yins out there that don't know this. When after the Maitlands leave Beetlejuice and he's all pissed off because they got back to home and he's stuck in the model, when he goes to like kick the tree, it's not supposed to fall over. And when he turns and he goes, nice fucking model, and honks his crotch, he's looking at the set designer off camera. That's who he's looking at. And it's just an outtake because, this didn't work. And Tim Burton went, no, this is too fucking funny. This stays in the movie. And
it's so good.
Michael Keaton could have gone, oops, and and they could have fixed it and did it right. But no, it's one of the most iconic moments in the movie. Like anytime anything falls over around me, I go, nice fucking model. So
no, those lines and that just it's just like bam, bam, bam. The such funny lines where he's like talking to them like they're obviously coming to his house. He's like, place is a mess. Don't ignore it. Don't pay attention to it or something like that. You guys like Italian? Yeah.
Hey, where'd you go?
Hey, you're working with a professional here. Like I like saying that to people. As part of my pitch deck.
We're like piece of the pod. Come on. We even shop at the same store.
You guys ever been to Saturn?
You guys ever been to Saturn?
For the longest time, quick sidebar, 20 seconds, is that I didn't understand when they went to see the sandworms that they were on Saturn. I thought it was just something that
I didn't know that either. I didn't know that was actually like they were on a moon.
It's a moon of Saturn, apparently. Yeah. But anyways, sorry. Let's continue.
Do we have time for another little sidebar? Okay.
All the
Always
sidebars.
and forever.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect, because you guys can edit this house if you don't like it. But
no, anyways. I'm not going to edit it. I'm going to keep it in.
Oh, yay. I hope I don't fuck it up. Pressure. Okay, so I was talking to my friend, Kevin Kuchever, who is this amazing a VFX artist. He did our VFX on Bloody Bridget. He's also done like incredible. He's worked probably on everything that you've seen, like Gremlins, RoboCop, Beetlejuice, all kinds of stuff. Okay. And so I was like, I always like to bug people who I know have like worked on the film and just ask them like little things. So he was telling me that he worked on a deleted, you guys might already know this because you guys are mega fans like me, but he worked on a deleted scene where it was instead of the Maitlands going to Saturn, they were going to get stuck like in the gears of time. Do you guys know about this?
No.
And so he like created these like prop gears. So it's like the same movement. So I almost feel like maybe they like reused Baldwin's like movements and stuff, because it like on the test footage, you know, because like it's just like kind of like black and white, and it's not
Right.
There's a little bit of some temp score or whatever, but it's not finished obviously, but it kind of reminds me of the same movement. So it seems like they use the same stuff. But so there's like all of these big like factory gears going past him, and like all of this cool electricity bolts coming past. So anyways, I thought that it was kind of cool, and I'm sorry that it was like cut from the film, because I thought that would be an interesting, I actually have to tell Kevin this, I didn't get back to him, but if they would have kept that for him going like on his way to the moon of Saturn or whatever, you know,
Like
before
a way of kind of traversing between like from the house to Saturn.
Not every time, but this first time would have been cool, because it wasn't even that, it didn't take that much time, but it seemed like they worked really hard on it. So I'm sorry that I hit the cutting room floor, but he's so talented, and I really love, I don't know what those like kind of like lightning bolts or like electricity, you know, like the old school where like they would like hand paint it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or am I crazy?
No. You're talking about like basically
like,
painting.
Yeah,
painting
like the
on the film.
OG stuff. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
like the rotoscoping. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, so I'll send you a link. It's really interesting.
Really
it's short,
cool.
but it's fun.
So I got a theory. on this movie.
Okay,
here.
what's your theory?
Based on what you just told us, is that that this movie went through a lot of like a lot of rewrites, because originally Beetlejuice was Freddy Krueger, really, in the first draft of this. They went, hey, we need some kind of monster to take out Beetlejuice at the end, you know? He can't just be defeated by anything. He's this magical trickster. And they went, what about, you ever see that movie Dune? Yeah, what about it? Well, what if it was like a giant worm in the sand ate him? It's like, we haven't set anything like that up. Well, you know that gear scene? That one producer said it's way too expensive. What if we just put him on a stop-motion desert planet with the words from Dune? And they went, let's do it. Yeah, and then we'll have the archer ride one in at the end of the movie and eat Beetlejuice.
Well, I guess that leads us to talk a little bit about the visual effects of this.
Yeah.
I love the visual effects and the production design of this movie so much. I mean, this is old school stop motion animation combined with practical effects. There's no CGI bullshit in this. It is just old school tactile things that you have to make. And I love that so much.
Well, Brian, scarcity often can do two things. It can destroy a production, or it can make people be more creative than they ever thought possible.
Yep.
And so because Burton had a very limited special effects budget on this movie, he went, I'm going to homage a lot of the B movies that I grew up watching in the 50s, you know, and that'll save a hell of a lot of money on the visual effects. And I can just say it was an homage, which it was, but
well, not even that. I mean, not even that, John. I mean, you know, if his goal is I want to make this look like a high budget B movie, he is successful. You know, like that goes without saying. But I don't think it's a happy accident. I think it was just like, how am I supposed to show this underworld? What is it going to look like? Maybe I want it to look like all of my favorite bad movies. You know, movies that I grew up in the 50s and 60s. So, I mean, I get that. I mean, that's a credit to like Bo Welch and V. Neal as makeup artists. you know, like who were able to craft these characters and craft these visual effects gags that are terrifying. But you know what the thing is, though? It's not terrifying in a way where like Freddy Krueger type of horror movie terrifying. Like I watched Beetlejuice with my daughter who's 6 years old, who's scared to death of horror movies, and she's not at all scared of Beetlejuice. It's kind of done in a way. Well, it's done in a way that is it hits the line, right, between scary and just fun.
Well, and you mentioned, the brilliance of Bo Welsh, said Catherine O'Hara. Wink. Anastasia, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Bo Welsh involved in this film ended up marrying Catherine O'Hara. For any of you who are like, what the hell is John talking about? But
that's probably what half our audience were saying. Yeah.
But yeah, this movie, even I would say not even more, but I'd say the same as Batman. And Edward Scissorhands is, when I was a kid, I didn't understand that there were any influences on art. I just assumed that people created things and it was just out of their imagination. It's never been seen before. So I thought, and I'm not taking anything away from him now by saying this, but I thought Tim Burton was this genius. I thought that he created German expressionism that as I got older, I realized was a thing. I'm like, I saw like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Wait a tick. There's no right angles here either.
Did he just steal that from my boy Tim Burton?
Yeah. Who is this Caligari director fella? but just watch.
Who is this Fritz Lang character? Who is he? How dare he steal from Tim Burton? But I think Tim Burton stole from Fritz Lang. No, damn you.
But but we've been stealing each other from the time we were painting on cave walls. But. Or, homaging, if you will. But the underworld in this movie, the netherworld, if you will, I was just like blown away by the set design, the art direction, the costume design, the makeup effects. I'm like, this is unfucking believable. I think this Burton kid's going places.
And the use of lighting too.
Oh my god!
It's so. I mean, it's so like in a way like grimy or something. You know what I mean? Like, there's definitely switches between like the Maitland's version versus like the underworld or what, the Afterlife, let's say. But yeah, those like harsh greens, oh my god, they're so great and so iconic. And now look at us all using like all of these greens and purples and stuff.
Tim loves that dichotomy of like the picturesque perfect world and the dark, dirty, dusty, there's probably black mold there somewhere world. It's never been more personified than Edward Scissorhands. It's kind of the thing, like he lives in that scary ass creepy world, that mansion, but then he goes into the tackiest world you've ever seen in your life, with the fake lawns and the pink houses. So yeah, he loves that
pastel town.
Mm-hmm. I love it because you can tell that Tim Burton is, by all accounts, a fine artist first. Like that's the thing, is that you can tell where someone's head lies when it comes to filmmaking. If every one of Tim Burton's movies, no matter what they are, they all have a color palette, they all have a unique style, and that style is always rooted in hand-drawn concept. Like you literally can look at all of his back catalog of stuff and go look at the concept drawings he makes, and they end up becoming the movie. Even if it's not 100%, there always is a visual blueprint that goes into those movies.
I was going to say, I call that the difference between the gearhead and the painter. There are two directors. There's the gearhead and the painter, and both can succeed, but I would rather have a director who's a painter first.
Yeah, well, I mean, it just very screams that he's an art school like animator. He's like very visual, and I love these like old school films of his where it's like so gritty and visual and just building these immense worlds where I actually want more time in them. You know, like I wish we had several more you know, Batmans and stuff to like really get into Gotham and the underworld there. You know what I mean? Like I love his universes that he creates.
I would kill
these like OG
for a
ones.
Batman 3. I would kill for a Tim Burton third Batman. Like I've on this podcast said how I have some issues with Batman Returns, and I do. Mainly, I love Batman Returns. But there are some things. Go back to our episode 1, in fact, in which we talked about Batman Returns, and I mean, I had some issues with the whole concept of Batman sitting in his dining or his living. What was his study in the middle of the night?
Brian, let it go,
and
man.
I'm not going to let this thing go. Man. I don't give a shit. So Anastasia, let me get your thoughts on this, okay?
I don't know. Do we want to fight though? Because
no, we're not going to fight. I love Batman Returns.
Brian.
Because like those are some fighting words. And
I'm not.
Home.
Listen, I never.
Home, Brian, in my home, you're gonna come at me with this.
No,
in a movie,
I'm just saying.
Where he punches a bird person in the face, and cats wake up a woman by biting on her fingers. You're going to have the problem that he has a couple of signals that reaches into a house, which is a visual metaphor about him being alone, and then he lives every night to be Batman until he finally finds something, and then he loses it in Catwoman, and it's a nihilistic ending that should have also had the ending where, thanks to Max Schreck, the bat signal fizzles out, and it could have been the ultimate dystopian nightmare ending to a visual superhero movie ever, but they blew it because they wanted to make a Catwoman movie.
Anastasia, please go ahead, because you look like you want to say something.
I'm about to have a stroke in this heat over
No.
not loving my Batman Returns, which is just part 1 and part 2. They're one film. Like, it's
Fair
just
enough.
It's just one film.
I want to correct.
I
want to redeem myself here.
You better.
I love Batman Returns. My issue was that if a character like Bruce Wayne is supposed to be anonymous and no one's supposed to know that he is Batman, then why does the man have robotic mirrors on the side of his house that anyone could see? And I'm like, what if Batman is taking his shit? What if he's not in his study when the bat signal goes out and the man is taking a crap? I don't see just a toilet in the study.
Well, then somebody dies. I don't know what to say.
There you go.
He's got to live his life.
Somebody dies.
Hey, Brian,
but
he decided
also,
to crap.
He wouldn't have
Brian,
even known
you need to leave that.
Yeah.
You need to leave that orphan man alone. He is a
I will leave
billionaire,
the orphan man alone.
and he is very lonely. Okay, a man needs a hobby. That's what I've been told. Okay.
I mean, I know the man cannot be that lonely. He's billionaire playboy Bruce Wayne, okay?
Apparently he is, though. Think about it.
Yes. Well, we all know that the real Bruce Wayne is Batman, and the mask is really Bruce Wayne. We all know that.
That is a wonderful film, and don't get me started on that because I could deep dive that too.
If we ever do a revisit of Batman Returns, Anastasia, you'll be the first person I call up.
Let's do it.
I better be.
You will be the first. Truth be told, honestly, I really do love the first two. I love the first one more. Like,
it's so, but also it's so hard. That's why I say it's like part 1 and part 2. Because I can't pick. Because they're both it's so delicious to watch. I mean, everything in the first one is amazing. And then, like, don't get me started on, like, freaking Penguin and Catwoman and her whip skills. Like,
oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trashing the movie. I love the movie. I'm just saying, like, those are some things, like, and again, this was as an adult who just looks at the movie. That's what I'm saying. As a kid, I saw that movie in theaters, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I wanted a third Batman, and I was pissed off when we got Batman Forever, even though now there is this whole revival of how people love and can't wait for a Schumacher cut. I'm just going, I'm sorry, dude. Like it's, I don't want that.
Well, I hope I didn't fuck up my chance to come back.
No, you will always
and
be
talk
welcome
about
back.
how much
You
I
will
love
always
Batman
always be welcome
Returns.
back.
I just have really strong opinions, okay? And nobody wants to talk to me about this stuff in my family.
Listen. We welcome all opinions and we welcome all fights. So you are always welcome.
I only welcome the right opinions, and I want to start the fight. So,
well, before we kind of close out this episode, I do want to ask both of you, what is your favorite scene in Beetlejuice? Anastasia, you're the guest. I'm going to ask you first.
This is torture. This is torture.
Okay, what about like favorite 2 or 3 scenes?
Oh man, I mean, like pretty much anything with Beetlejuice, right? I mean, it's all brilliant. I'm sorry, almost everything is quotable. Don't get me like Delia, like how wearing Charles's sweater as pants. You know, like come on.
I didn't notice that one. She's wearing Charles's sweater as pants.
Yeah,
she wears 2 gloves as a headband. Yeah.
I mean, I noticed that, but I didn't know she was wearing Charles's sweater as pants.
Yeah, when she's talking to Lydia in the kitchen, like a scene before, Charles is like a couple scenes before, he's watching the birds. He's got this red, like heavy sweater on, and then when she's in the kitchen, she's literally putting him on for size and wearing his sweater as pants.
I got to go back and watch it because I never knew that.
Yeah.
Interesting. John, what about you? What are your favorite 2 scenes in this movie?
Well, I'm gonna give you my natural hat trick actually here.
Okay, natural hat trick.
One is not my real favorite one, but just recently rewatching this in preparation for this episode, I laughed my ass off. Is when Alec Baldwin is like, I forgot to lock the attic, and he's headless and he's running upstairs and runs into the wall. It's like, wait, you don't have you shouldn't be able to find the attic at all. You don't have any fucking eyes. But my number 2 is just something that is from my childhood. Is I remember as a kid hearing, "Oh, she can't hear you. She's sleeping with Prince Valium tonight." And when I was a kid, I went, "You mispronounced Valiant, stupid." Like I didn't, and it wasn't until I got, to be older that I found out what Valium was. I went, "Oh." But my real answer would be, not to sound like a basic bitch, but the whole brush the shoulders off, it's showtime, attention Kmart shoppers, that whole thing, and the wedding, the whole finale of that movie. I'm like, chef's kiss.
Awesome. Yeah. I used to not like this scene, but as I've gotten older, I appreciate it far more. And that is the Deo scene.
Oh,
the dinner party scene. And that's when everyone and that's when I would call the basic bitch answer. That's when everyone's like, I like the scene where they're dancing and got their butts shaking up in the air and they're, the shrimp turn into monster hands. But honestly, as I've gotten older and as I've watched this movie with my daughter, she loves that scene. And I appreciate it far more because of how out of left field it is. It's so bizarre and so just are we seriously doing a dance number in the middle of this movie about ghosts and bio-exorcists? But I see we are. And so that's got to be my second one. My favorite, though, I got to keep going with it. It is absolutely the Beetlejuice Takes Revenge. That's what I call it. It's Beetlejuice, attention Kmart shoppers, and just taking care of Maxie Dean's, taking care of the Dietzes, is marrying Lydia, and he's, rescuing the Maitlands, all within the course of about, 10 minutes? Yep. It's so good.
It's just
so good.
But
good.
Brian, the scene you mentioned before, there has to be a trust that you put into your actors. And for anybody, somebody like Hitchcock, who's actors are cattle. Fuck you, Hitchcock. Because on paper, the possession scene is not funny. The director explaining it to the actors, it's not funny. It's not funny until the actors make it funny. It's like putting on the
Definitely.
Ritz in Young Frankenstein. Doesn't work on paper until you shoot it and you trust your actors to bring it alive. So I say hats off to the actors to making that scene as hilarious as you possibly could.
And it is hilarious. It absolutely is hilarious. And it is a classic. And it's something that, people who watch Beetlejuice, like clearly they'll quote the lines that Michael Keaton so expertly delivers in this. But, that whole dance number is so bizarre, but it's so iconic too. Like, people know that song, not necessarily that it was a Harry Belafonte song, but they know it from Beetlejuice. Like, they go, oh, that's the Beetlejuice song. Just great. I love it.
Yeah, even if they haven't even watched the film, they
Yeah.
know that scene. Exactly. And then also, I mean, like what you were saying about actors, it's also about the casting director
Yep.
finding those kind of actors that you can trust, because just because you're an actor doesn't mean that you have a talent in comedy or improvising. You know what I mean? Like that's a hard muscle to create and to flex on on the set. So hats off to the casting directors, and whoever found all of these people, because they're all geniuses.
Yeah. Perfect casting and Robert Goulet.
Well, in that scene, it was Dick Cavett, which I imagine Dick Cavett was like, what the hell did
Oh,
he
yes.
hire me for?
Yeah. Dick Cavett. That'd be like casting Jay Leno now, wouldn't it?
Yes, that literally would be like casting Jay Leno and saying, all right, Jay Leno, in this scene, I need you to shake your ass in the air and then lip sync the songs to Deo.
Yeah.
And and a monster handful of shrimp is going to hit you in the face.
Oh, hey, Delia, you flake. You've always been a flake. If you want to scare people, and do it with your heart.
Oh, good stuff.
It was Dick Cavett
Well-
that actually came up with the effect for that shot. This guy who's an
Really?
interviewer. Yeah, it wasn't working with the stagehands underneath the table. So he said, why don't we start with our faces on the shrimp and then we'll fly backwards and you just reverse it. And
Oh, genius.
and that's what's in the movie. And it's like, Dick fucking Cavett showing up, baby. You can do more than just interview Truman Capote and Norman Mailer. God bless you.
Well, this has been fun. Before we wrap up, of course, I want to ask Anastasia, what's new in your neck of the woods? What are you working on currently? What do you got coming up? Where can people find more information about you and what you're working on?
Oh man, a lot. Okay, so where can they find me? I'm on Facebook and Instagram a lot. A little too much, just trying to promote the stuff that I'm doing. So Anastasia Elfman on Facebook, and I'm a little tricky to find on Instagram. It's Delia DeMont, my stage name, there. And what am I doing? I'm doing a lot of deep dive podcasts and a lot of people. Okay, so I'm obsessed with Lon Chaney Sr., and I know a lot about pre-code horror and silent films, and obviously like practical effects driven horror, gateway horror, all of this kind of stuff. And so I've been doing a lot of different podcasts and stuff, and love talking about films. What else? Oh, Danny. So my brother-in-law, Danny Elfman, you might have heard of him, has a huge, this guy.
Yeah, I know the guy. I've heard of him. I've heard he does good work.
He's okay. No, just joking. He has a big show coming up in November. His big mess show, and it's a career spanning. It covers his like Oingo Boingo, his film scores, and his new work called Big Mess, and he's also working on a new album, which is also amazing. And so that's in November, and so that's at the Hollywood Bowl here in Hollywood in November. And then also there's a show that's happening in San Francisco the next day. And so we're going to go to both and hopefully not die.
Hopefully it's a little bit like cooler then and not like
I don't
100
know.
degrees.
Okay, so here's the thing. I go like full like goblin mode. Like literally I'm in crazy goblin makeup. And so I'm just wearing, they gifted me a really big like album shirt, and I just turned it into like a mini dress, and so I just like walk around in a little shirt with a harness and like cowboy boots. It's fine if it's hot, but hopefully it's cooler.
Well, people take for granted how big California is. Are you going to fly from Los Angeles to San Francisco, or are you going to try to drive it?
I think we're gonna try to drive. I don't know.
Oof. Woo. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I love Danny, and I really also love his live shows. I mean, for me, they are so inspiring, and I always recommend, if you have never experienced Danny performing live, you have to. It is like soul changing. Like I don't know how to explain. It's like he'll take us from an Oingo Boingo tune to The Simpsons to Pee-wee to Beetlejuice to a Big Mess song. Like, it's insane. And his crew and his he's got a full orchestra, and Steve Bartek is there conducting that orchestra. Wow. And a full choir. Like, this is like massive show, and it's multimedia, so he's got like imagery going from like different artists and stuff from films, and he has a fabulous killer like lighting crew that just sorry, I'm like fangirling out. I love his shows.
No,
I'm just saying that he should do a Pittsburgh one, like come to the Carnegie, like, stage.
I'll tell him.
Homestead, like
I'll
say
tell
like
him.
Come to the Erie Horror
We've got
Fest.
stages here, or the Erie Horror Fest. We had Goblin last year. You ever hear Goblin? Oh yeah,
I'm actually, because so like I do these. Okay, nobody, don't get me started, but a little bit. I do these live pre-show performances where I do these like very dark, dramatic burlesque performances before films, and so I have one for like Suspiria, and I'm like trying to hook up with them. So if Goblin's listening, I'm your blonde.
John, did you meet Goblin when we were at Erie?
Yep,
you met him.
I know. Well, I
You
know
met
people
Claudio.
that were their handlers at the time. I can talk to them to see who their handlers are, and maybe get you.
The handler thing.
It's just
Let's use the horror family hookups, okay?
There you go.
Well, Andy, it's just as long as Danny sets a couple of tickets at the Hollywood Bowl aside, a couple of plane tickets, no big whoop. Well, you scratch my back, I scratch his.
Yeah. Yeah, but he should do a live show out here in Pittsburgh or
Well, it's
Erie.
like hundreds of people, so it's tough to get around. Like the furthest he's gone is Vegas, and we drove to that.
Yeah.
And like needing like huge stage and in a huge projection and stuff like that. So, and he's a perfectionist. I don't know if you know this about him, so.
I'm just saying the Warner Theater is absolutely the most beautiful movie house I've ever been in, and it's in Erie, Pennsylvania. And if it worked well for Goblin,
I'll leave him a note and like throw it on the floor, and hopefully he picks it up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, John, where can they find you at on the internet?
You can find me actually weirdly at the same handles as Anastasia. No, you can find me at Facebook, Instagram as well. You can find me over on the YouTubes at Jay Does Video Nasties. Just dropped my Dark Knight Rises So Many Questions video.
It's so good. I just want to say this on the podcast. It is so fucking funny. I cracked up in it. So Anastasia, John has his own YouTube channel in which he does deep dives of movies and all manner of things. And he just released one on The Dark Knight Rises, and it's all about how it's a ridiculous movie, and ultimately it is quite literally the Return of the Jedi of Christopher Nolan's Batman series, which I tend to agree. And man, he knocked it out of the park and had me laughing my ass off during one sequence in which Alfred, can I give this one away, John? Am I able to give this one away?
Go ahead. You're gonna reveal me at my most childish and juvenile.
No, it's not childish. It's so good because you reference Alfred having his own little like vision and fantasy, and it's so horrible in how he's imagining to like what was it from like Arkham Asylum Like, I don't know where you got the footage.
Well, okay. Well, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Obviously, YouTube has guidelines where you cannot have actual pornography, so I know I was safe in searching this. So I went on YouTube and typed in Batman porn, and I'm like,
Oh, God.
let's see what YouTube has to offer me. And I found
And you found
Harley
some.
Quinn and Catwoman rubbing butts together, fully clothed, and I went, this is the base which I'm going to build my mountain.
And then he got lines from Michael Caine from Austin Powers and Goldmember, talking British talk with Mike Myers and putting that over top of it. It is so funny. And then, of course, he throws in there the Arby's We Have the Meats logo, meats soundbite. And I literally, I kid you not, Anastasia, I was laughing so hard. And I'm recovering from COVID myself, so I shouldn't be coughing like that. But man, it was so funny. So I just want to say, my hat's off to you. I don't care if it's your most childish. It's so funny. You do an awesome job with these videos. Definitely check them out.
Well, this sounds amazing. Can somebody send it to me?
You'll get sent a link after the recording. Outside of that, if you've enjoyed this podcast, do me a favor right now. This is really important. Share this episode with your friends. Share it with people who are fellow weirdos like us. Share it with anyone who's loved Beetlejuice. Okay, that really helps us out, spreads the word for the podcast. Outside of that, if you want to subscribe to us or follow us, depending on what word you use, you can follow us on your favorite podcast platform by going to cinemapsychoshow.com/follow. We've got all the little links there. There's ones for Apple Podcasts and Spotify and iHeart. They're all there, right there. On top of that, if you watching us here on YouTube, thanks for doing that. We appreciate you. But do us something even more better. Can you go ahead right at the bottom there? You can probably see it. Click the little thumbs up. Click the little follow or subscribe or whatever the hell it's called nowadays. And the bell. You got to hit the bell because that tells YouTube that you want to see more of this stuff. And if you want to see more of this stuff, then it puts our algorithm juice up really high. And we want that algorithm juice to be high. But with that said, we will see you next time.
Thank you, Anastasia. We love you.
We love you.
Thank you. Love you guys, naughty boys.